Good morning, teachers. It's Nadine. I just wanted to talk to you and give you an update on how to use HyperDocs that have been created for you by your grade level reps in kindergarten through second grade. You're going to notice that I'm on the homepage for FT Tech Tips. And really, after talking with the reps and coming up with the easiest way for teachers to be able to find the HyperDocs that have been created, we felt like that if we just place them on FT Tech Tips, it's going to be the easiest for you. So as a teacher, you're going to tap on the word that says HyperDocs. Once you do that, when it takes you to the page, I actually have them listed at the top of the page. So if you're a kindergarten teacher, then you're going to select kindergarten, first grade, or second grade, and so on. Now I want to show you what the document looks like once you tap on it. So what we've done is every HyperDoc that your reps have created, I've taken a screenshot of the first title slide of the HyperDoc, and I have embedded it into this Google Doc. You simply just need to tap on it, and then down below, you're going to see a link. Now, when you do that, when you tap on the link, you're going to notice that each one of these documents are going to force you to make a copy, which is good because the reason why we're doing this method is because we were having folks that were copying a HyperDoc, but then it was ending back up in my file folder rather than in your own drive. So by doing this method, it's going to eliminate that from happening. Now, I do want to talk for a moment about how the HyperDocs are designed. So what I asked the grade level reps to do is when they decided what they were going to create, I told them to look at the Indiana standards, but we had to take an even closer look at the standards. If it's a standard that you are just introducing to students, and it's not one that has a level of mastery that is assessed, I asked for those teachers to not create a HyperDoc on that standard. And the reason for that, I'm going to give you an example. When kindergarten came in to see me, they talked about Make 10. They knew that they introduced Making 10. And they knew actually that I had created a HyperDoc on practicing Make 10. And I said, okay, well, let's start to look in the standards. And when they looked at the standards, it was barely in there, and it was just a slight introduction to Making 10, and it was not an assessment. So that I told them that we don't want to have you guys make a HyperDoc on that because in first grade, and I'm going to show you the first grade document, the Make 10 HyperDoc really should go into first grade and not into kindergarten because in first grade, it goes more in depth. It actually is going to be assessed that students need to understand how to make 10. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to watch as we start to create these HyperDocs, number one, that we're not HyperDocing the kids to death, and we're being very diligent about not overlapping content. Because what I really don't want is I don't want a student that's in kindergarten to do a HyperDoc, then come to first grade and then do that exact same HyperDoc. We want to make sure that we are aligning it. And that's where I told the teachers that's kind of my job. So when the reps come in, when I talk to them, I tell them, let's take a look at what was created before you. So that way we can make sure that we are developing and we are increasing that depth of knowledge as we get older. Now I did tell teachers that on here, so what we're asking teachers to do, for instance, if you teach first grade, if I really want you to stick to the HyperDocs that you see listed for first grade, please do not go in and start using the HyperDocs that are listed under second grade. Because again, if you use it in your classroom, then when that student gets to second grade, then they're going to say to that teacher, oh, I did this last year. And that's what I'm trying to prevent from happening. However, if I'm a first grade teacher and I have some students in my class that are lower and they need some help with reteaching some kindergarten skills, maybe in small group or for some personalized learning, there's nothing wrong with going back to kindergarten and taking a look. Now, when teachers are modeling doing these HyperDocs, if it's the one that's in your grade level, you want to make sure that you're modeling it starting out, with that gradual release model. You're modeling the beginning of it Once you get farther into the apply and the creation, that's when the kids are starting to work on their own, because you have set up that standard of what it is that they need to do. But if you're going to be doing it as a reteach, if I'm going to be going back and helping out a student from a previous skill, if I'm a first grade teacher and they need help in kindergarten, then at that point, the student can do it as a personalized learning experience where they can go ahead and watch the videos to help teach them the concept or reteach it. And they can go through that portion of the HyperDoc again because that student needs that. I'm just basically saying, don't do it whole class, whole group, if you're going to go backwards and you need to be able to use something. As always, if you guys have any questions, let me know. So then I'm sure teachers are going to say, well, I still teach that. So what? So you're telling me now that I shouldn't be doing a HyperDoc if it's an introduction to a standard, but yet I still teach the standard. So here's what I'm going to tell you. Like how I said, I don't want you to HyperDoc them to death. So if you're not doing a HyperDoc for that, then I would tell you to tap on the tab that says Google Classroom. And I've been going around to the buildings and doing this training. I'm trying to help teachers out about how should you be using the Chromebooks in K-2 and 3-5 during literacy and math. So the easiest way for me to help teachers was to come up with these levels. So level 1 is going to be using that About tab in Google Classroom. Now, typically what teachers start to tell me is, well, I've got things in the About tab. Now where's a HyperDoc? And my question is, again, I don't want to HyperDoc students to death. And if you're truly doing a HyperDoc, that means that the student should be creating something with technology at the end. Hence why we shouldn't be doing them all of the time. Okay. But that's a great reason to use level 2. So I should see teachers using Seesaw or Flipgrid or Padlet, Wiser.me, other activities in isolation. In other words, it's not this giant package of a HyperDoc. It means that they are just using those tools individually. And I've had a discussion with the reps about this as well. I decided to go ahead and make this video so that way, in case I had some teachers that needed clarification, hopefully this video will help you. If not, reach out to me, and ask your rep that sat down with me and they can help to clarify. But again, if that doesn't help, I'm an email away for you to be able to get a hold of me. All right. Thank you.